I didn't know about the clean train movement until a little while ago. You know, I knew that people did pieces on the trains, you know, still, that people got in, and there were people coming from Europe to do it, and people coming from other places, and it was a big deal to go in and get your piece and take a picture in there, and then you had something to show for it. But I was going around making, you know, lecturing, giving talks, and people would ask me if people are still doing trains, and I say, yeah, they're doing them, but they never run, so I don't see the point. There's no point to it, because that was the whole point of having it on the train in the first place, not to have a picture in a magazine or on the internet, but to see it ride. I hope that graffiti is still around for a long time to come, because I think there's a big need. I think one reason why it spread around the world the way it did is clearly because the conditions of people in different, especially urban societies, it involves dislocation, you know, loss of community, all these things, because so much change and growth and development it's having in the cities that nothing is the same. Communities are destroyed, new things are built, people are alienated. And I think in this profound alienation, and for marginalized people, that graffiti is a great voice, you know, a great way of expressing yourself. And whether you like it or not, the world is going to be more and more like favelas. Big cities with favelas all around them, with dislocated, marginalized, alienated people. And I think graffiti is a great tool for them to express themselves. And if they don't express themselves, you're going to have more violence and more revolution and all that. But I think, you know, graffiti is a great voice. I think New York lost a great opportunity when they took this hardline approach and cleaning everything off. You know, everybody says, oh, you couldn't have had a deal with the kids, they wouldn't have stuck to it, you couldn't have controlled it. But I think had the city reached out or allowed, you know, like the 1976 bicentennial train to stay together and to run, that there could have been a kind of way that there could have been official painting of trains, you know, because it was beautiful, and people were coming from all over the world just to see it. You know, it was a great tourist attraction. But the city could have capitalized on it. People could have painted the trains and gotten off that way. And sure, everybody would have painted illegally too, but it would have been less polarized. I think the polarization between the authorities and the people is not good. People who continue documenting have been subject to harassment, sometimes arrest, for simply documenting stuff. Back in those days, again, it was a different world. You know, that you had Hickey and Ski, they'd show up at art shows, and people knew them by sight, and they would go up and they'd talk, you know, and they'd laugh, and they were encouraging their, you know, going into paint and galleries and things like that. So they wouldn't blame me at the time. In fact, I got away with murder because I took all these pictures at a time when the transit cops, while they knew who I was, they weren't going after me because of seeing how I encouraged it. So I got off lucky. Well, people blame me, you know, sensible people who are parents, who see their children now, they're going to get involved in something which is dangerous, illegal, they could get killed, you know, and they say, and I think correctly, a parent could say this and be justified in saying this. What am I doing encouraging, you know, underage people to go out and commit a crime and endanger their lives and maybe put their futures in jeopardy? You see, they see it that way. Now, you would, if a parent might see it that way and would attack the documentarian. Of course, my purpose when I was taking pictures and putting them out was not to make the child somebody else's child go and do something wrong, you know. And I believe in freedom of speech to the extent that, in freedom of the press and all that, to the extent that you document and you show what's going on, you know. So I wouldn't say, oh, you can't do that because somebody might get an idea and go out and do it and then you'll be responsible. But I think you have to be thoughtful about those things. You know, when somebody came to me and said, yo, Henry, I know there's a new project for you. I said, what's that? They said, train surfing in Brazil. Well, you know, you gotta say that is truly crazy. There are these people, you know, who a large percentage of them die doing this. But it has the same kind of mechanism and energy, the energetic dynamic of graffiti, which makes them do it because they get famous doing it. And they're people on the margins who don't have much prospect in life anyway. So they play fast and loose with their lives for this momentary fame and this thrill of riding these trains, surfing them. And I think to have made a felony out of graffiti is evil. It's wrong. You're talking about a young person's life, and you're threatening them with a lifetime liability against them. They won't be able to get certain types of jobs. Lawyer, things like that will be impossible because they have a felony. I think that is wrong. I think that is, the same kind of mentality in this country that now has, more than 2 million people in prison. It's wrong. You have more people per capita in prison in this country than anywhere else. It's unhealthy, and it's being done out of this sort of intolerance that's developed over the last 20 years. And it's most of the offenders are nonviolent, and most of the people, and to make graffiti a felony, that's crazy. That's got to be changed. People are going to have to fight legislation to get that changed because it's evil. As far as the way it used to be, where New York had so much to do to take care of real crime that they had no time for graffiti, basically, in court. There was a leniency, which, sure, it allowed the phenomenon to spread, but it was much more humane. That was, and the proportion was right. Yeah, okay, these kids are engaged in something which is illegal, but they're kids. What do? You give them community service, or you do those things which they did. And I think that's the correct approach to it. It's not going to die as long as the people here continue to do it. It isn't as interesting. It's harder than it used to be. So it's not wussy because people it takes courage to do that, and savvy intelligence to pull it off.
$250 is a misdemeanor. And so you go above that, you're looking at felony. Offhand, I don't remember all the numbers, but $250 is the misdemeanor. Graffiti as a felony goes down to the value of the alleged, as the government says, damage. So it depends on the amount of money that it takes to clean whatever they want to remove. And that's how they determine whether it's a misdemeanor or a felony. The laws have really gone unchanged. They're just being enforced more rigorously because we now have come to a time where, and I think a lot has to do with the decline in other aspects of crime, and we have now a mayor, and I do like the mayor, I just don't agree with all of his programs, and this being one of the programs in particular. I don't agree with the graffiti program because I think it's a focus on so-called quality of life, which is great for a politician because it's something that business owners see. And it's again the concept of broken windows. So if there's one broken window in a neighborhood and it goes unfixed, it invites more decline and decay, and it invites other unsavory characters, etc. But with regard to the business approach to the city, a clean city looks to business like, here's someplace I'd like to invest. It's pristine, it's good. Rich people want to go there because there's no painting on the wall. So